Hey there, Impzone fam, I'm back again, here to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And well, again, here, I want to go back to a video or a discussion that I had a couple of weeks ago there about saying, hey, Slammiversery doesn't really have anything really announced. There's been nothing really, well, like, there's been stuff happening on TV, but it's just like, nothing's really been announced. Like, there's been a few kind of announcements here and there. Like, I think I discussed about the fact that they announced, like, I think 3 different things now, basically. One being, like, the Ultimate X returning. That's very cool. Ladder match returning. That's very cool. All championships are going to be on the line. So, basically, like any other pay-per-view, I guess, pretty much. Oh, except for the ones where you just forget that the women's tag team titles exist and whatever else, or whatever other B or C grade titles that, are just sort of dragging everything down, or whatever else it is, or some other stories, or some other matches, or some other moments where you're just gone, yeah, and I can get, like, again, you saying, well, the show doesn't have enough time for everybody or everything. And again, maybe we want to build to that later or whatever else it is. I can perfectly understand that. But when, like, these guys and these gals work their butts off for so long to get onto pay-per-view, then they get turned over. It's like, well, yeah, that sort of sucks, to see that somebody, worked so hard for so long, and now it's like, well, will we probably ever hear from them again? Who knows? But again, in some ways, it's like, well, yeah, it does suck to be like, well, maybe we'll never see that person or this person again in some regards, but then again, hey, well, somebody else might be taking their place, so that's always exciting. But at any rate, back to the topic I'm going to talk about here is this whole, like, idea that there's not really anything planned for this show yet. Because there is one thing that has been bothering me. And it's the same thing that I think that almost happened, like, last year as well. So this is this whole thing, and I think we talked about it a while back. I think it was actually like last year, some point, I think. Or maybe it was a bit sooner than that. Maybe like 6 months ago. Because there was an interview that Bailey did that I sort of covered at least somewhat and talked about somewhat, where I was like, hey, she said she wanted to come to TNA. Will there be anything that ramificates from that? And I have even said it on, like, Twitter and stuff like this, and whatnot, here and there, with some people, and with, like, in some of the posts that Bailey made, just to try to get, like, maybe, hey, well, let's get them to actually see if they'll pull their finger out on this. But, like, I'm not very hopeful, to be honest. But still, like, yeah. But I want to talk about, what was it? It was like a year ago when we all thought Natty Neidhart was coming to TNA to wrestle Masha Slamovich, and that never happened. It was like, there was a lot of hype, there was a lot of chatter about it, then it never happened. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I think it's only been in the last, like, couple of years since the partnership has been, like, a real thing, where some of this sort of, like, chatter has happened, where it's been like, WWE should send this person to TNA to do this, to do that, to do whatever else it is. You know what I mean? And I absolutely agree with that kind of thing in some level, but I do feel like, again, like, here is that issue of we are becoming reliant on, in that sense, not WWE cast officer or WWE, I don't know what else to kind of say, but, like, just people that they consider that are lesser than everybody else in some ways. The rejected, people. The people that they just, like, yeah, you're here and you exist and you're talented or whatever else it is, but you're not our pet project anymore, or right now, and probably will never be. And you probably weren't really that big of our pet project really ever that much. So we really don't care all that much. You're here and you're good enough and you're a good cog in the engine, so to speak. And as long as you're that good cog in that engine and you don't need greasing too much all the time, yeah, we'll keep you around, but that's it. We're just keeping you around to help other people. And that's fine to be like, for some people, I understand that. But still, like, to me, like, this is the unfortunate thing of the wrestling industry as well. It's a very individualistic, self-serving industry. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're just feeling like, oh man, this sucks because I don't get anything out of it, well, true, absolutely. That is the thing of it. But that is, you've got to look at it as a whole, and a lot of wrestlers who are more, I don't want to just say jobber, but more enhancement style wrestlers, because there are enhancement level wrestlers at every level, basically, so to speak, that you are in this for the glory of the greater good, so to speak. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, so to speak. Again, like, you're doing this for not just obviously not really just for yourself in a sense, because you keep a job, I guess, and that's basically all you really get out of this. But again, you get to watch and see that other person flourish, and hopefully they do a better job, after, or get better opportunities off of what you have hopefully given them. And you can say, hey, I was part of that, or whatever else. And you can take pride in, working with them and saying, hey, I helped put them on the map when people were kind of a little bit like, this guy, could take him or leave him. Maybe he'll become a big superstar, but maybe not. Who knows? Is he really all that? Or, is his head up his ass, sort of thing. And I guess this really reflects on, like, guys like Randy Orton. Like, a lot of people had a lot of questions about, like, Randy Orton when he was, like, coming in. And, like, obviously, like, initially he was more of a mid-card, like, level sort of guy. But there was a lot of, like, oh, will he ever be, like, the Stone Colds or the Rocks or whatever else it was, sort of discussion, or even the Kurt Angles or the Brock Lesnars that had just preceded him, sort of thing. And even though, like, Brock Lesnar had left, like, Kurt Angle was still there. So it was like, well, is he going to come onto that level? Like, there was a lot of that questioning. And then when he worked with Mick Foley, it was like, oh, okay, he showed that he could have way more to himself than just, I'm a very pretty boy and I do very pretty boy things. And then, the RKO out of nowhere thing started getting really over, because he started doing, more and more creative things to get that RKO out of nowhere to happen. And, like, just a couple of those really helped, again, get that thing over to being like RKO out of nowhere, like things like that, so that, again, you could get, people being, like, more invested and more believing and more, like, not just that this kid is always going to win or always needs to win or whatever else it is, but when he wins, it does sort of solidify that he's not just this pretty arrogant boy who can't really fight his own fights or whatever else it is. He can fight his own fights, but you've got to remember the foes that he's kind of, facing off against. He's literally a soldier facing off against, like, perceived legends and dragons and myths and whatever else it is, these sorts of things. So again, when you get to see that, even in a heel, leveling up in a sense of, yeah, I can walk and chew gum at the same time type thing of, you are an important aspect of the current crop and a absolute like future potential, person, and sometimes here and there did they stuff that up? Absolutely. But again, like some of these things, again, where they were like giving you that little piece of bread, those little bits of crumbs and those sorts of things, and sometimes making those character changes from like, I don't know what you want to call the more early version of Randy Orton, but I guess the pretty boy era of Orton to the more schizophrenic kind of Orton that we kind of more so know today. Yeah, I think that was a big leap in sort of showcasing and redefining what he could be about and things like that, more so that it was like, he's more dangerous now. So he made that leap from just being, yeah, I'm here and I'm a pretty boy or whatever else it is, and a bit arrogant and a bit cocky and a bit whatever else it is, to being, no, I'm just going to be a stone cold fucking killer, now that, that's basically a snake that lies in waiting for my prey, sort of thing. And all of this sort of stuff. So that was like that transition from being like, oh, you're just like building up, starting, getting that ball rolling or whatever else it is. No, now you're a fucking killer and now you're a part of the like main event scene. And that's kind of what that character needed at that time, because it was like that character and that person had kind of been treated so badly that it was like, okay, well, how does he get to the next level? He can, like, unless if he keeps staying at this level of, whatever, I'm an asshole or whatever else it is still or whatever, but I can't really get it done, so I need to change, or I need to evolve what I'm doing at a certain point, or I'm just going to remain at the same basic level. Then it's like, yeah, you're going to stay at that basically the same level. So now you need to find that next gear for him to go to, and to say, hey, he belongs at this space as equally as anybody else, as equally as John Cena, as equally as anyone else. Because again, that's what makes, for those great baby faces that we see. If we don't have this great heel, then we don't have these great baby faces. If we don't have these great baby faces, then where is our great heels? Same thing. You need to have that dichotomy. But again, getting back to the fact that they basically haven't announced really any matches. And none of, like, again, I talked about it before, none of the matches basically that I was talking about, like theory crafting, saying this could be a match, that could be a match, this could be a match, da-da-da-da, they could be doing this, they could be doing that. I don't think any of them were that exciting. None of them were that exciting or that interesting. Honestly. Like, none of them. So, that's the big problem. And again, like, here's the thing. If Bayley, and that's an extremely big if, because again, I feel like WWE, and I don't blame Bayley or Natty or whatever else it is for any of this, but when somebody like Natty or Bayley or whoever from WWE, even AJ Styles wanted to come to TNA, and then WWE basically ruined it. But yeah, they were like, yeah, dude, I'll go to TNA and I'll do stuff. Then WWE's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. Or you'll be just in the most, like, meaningless position possible, and it'll just be appearance, and then you'll just never get seen again, and that's going to be the end of it. Bye. So, yeah, that's where I think, unfortunately, that's going to be. And, yeah, like, absolutely be, like, love to be wrong, but I've seen this song and dance before, and, like, again, even if they decide, okay, that we're going to send Bayley over to TNA for something, to wrestle somebody, okay, then who the fudge is she going to wrestle? And how are you going to set that up? I mean, yes, you've kind of got this Twitter, well, I don't want to say beef, but this Twitter thing going on with her and Indy Hartwell, but I felt like, well, you're going to do something else with Indy Hartwell, and maybe that's just because it's like, well, we don't know if we've got Bayley, so we're just trying to do this other thing to make sure if Bayley's not coming, or if Bayley might be coming at Bound for Glory, or something else, or whatever else it is, that we've got something else to do with her. So, hey, I can fully understand that. And that's where, again, I think TNA is being very, at least being very smart in that regard. And I hope that they don't fall into that, again, they've fallen into that pitfall of, chasing that carrot too much with WWE. If WWE sends somebody, great, cool, whatever. Good for you. Or if somebody comes over from WWE, great, cool for you. Come over to TNA. We'll get, if you really want an opportunity, we'll give you an opportunity. You can come over and work with us. We don't want people who don't want to be here. If you're like, I don't want to go to TNA, what will that do for me? Okay, cool, then don't freaking come. If you're like, cool, something else, I'll go to TNA for a while. I'll go do this for a while. I'll go to AAA for a while. Cool story, great. People will love it if you come and do that. But don't be like, oh, they're sending me to TNA. I really don't want to do that. So, but I guess I've got to do it. So, yeah, sure, all right. But whatever, one night only or whatever, basically. And then I'm never going to be there again, basically. That, or it's the same thing with WWE being like, oh, yeah, we're sending you over to TNA. Okay, cool, great. So what am I going to do there? Oh, you're only going to be there for one night. Why? Because we don't want to send you over there. Then why are you sending me over there? Oh, because we promised to send them people. We promised them to do this. We promised them to do that, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And we've reneged on 1,000,001 of these promises, so now we've actually got to do something. So now we're just sending you guys because we don't really have anything for you over here. And, yeah, see you later, bye. Come back next week, and, yeah, whatever, bye. That's the level of care that I feel like is there. They just again, and this is why it's been allowed to get to that point where it's like there's a little bit of rumbling, there's a little bit of discussion about it, is because WWE just does not care. And in a sense, they're like, oh well, even that will drum up some interest or something or whatever else it is for people to be like, oh yeah, great, Bayley might be there. Woo, maybe we'll buy a ticket. Whatever. That's the thing, though. I think people need, and again, this is a problem of TNA booking and the TNA announcing things, which I hope that they will announce some things this upcoming week, or at least the week after, or as soon as possible, please. Because again, you shouldn't be reliant on saying, WWE, bail us out. Bailey us out. Send us somebody or whatever else it is so that we can sell out our show or whatever. No, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be saying, oh, well, we're so reliant on WWE because we don't know what we're doing. Well, that's your own problem, you know what I mean? Learn what you're bloody doing. Make these feuds and these matches and these moments that are building up to this show mean something. Give these people that are gonna face whomever they're going to face a reason to be facing them. Not just, well, we can't do X, Y, and Z because that's too soon or too obvious or too whatever else it is, or that's where we want the story to go next and we need a little while to get there. I get that. And again, there's that level of well, we just need to do something else type thing. We need to change things up type thing. Whatever. So it is what it is. We're changing things. And that's what we're going to do. But again, just I talked about this like 4 or 5 different times with 4 or 5 different shows over the last like couple of years. And maybe like some of those shows have been more like the monthly shows or whatever else it is. But again, you need to have these things set up way in advance. Even if it's blatantly, painfully obvious what you're doing, at least people then know, okay, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is what we're paying to see. You know what I mean? Even if you've got to change something, and you say, oh, it started out as a regular match, and then it moved to, well, now it's some other no DQ match or whatever. No, now it's a fucking chain match or a first blood match or a cage match or something else or whatever else it is. Sure, great, fine. But again, just be like willing to announce, yes, Tessa Blanchard versus this person or whatever else it is versus that person, this tag team versus that tag team, this group versus that group, whatever else it is, and then be like, okay, well, now the stakes have been raised and now it's going to be a hardcore war street fight Miami deathcore match, whatever, like, don't be afraid to be like, well, we'll change it in 2 weeks or whatever. So we haven't got that together. That's the thing. Get it together. Get the shit together. Get it done. Get it put out there and get people to be like, okay, now twist and turn. You knew that this match was going to happen, but now it's going to be ultimate death triangle tubes match or whatever. I don't know. But again, being able to change things, well, not on the fly, but on the fly more so, and say, well, this is why we did that. Now this is what the match is, or whatever. It's not just, oh, well, okay. And not to say that regular matches are boring. And again, like you saying, hey, we're going to have a ladder match. Cool. For what? Never mind. We're just gonna have a ladder match. As if that's not gonna involve the Hardys. Like what? The guys who are most known for the ladders? They're not gonna have the ladder match? What? Obviously you have to put the Hardys in the ladder match. So, like, unless you're not gonna do that, which is like, what the hell? Ultimate X. Theoretically, it's for the X Division title, but it hasn't been said that it is. So again, a lot of us are speculating to say, like I said before, there's basically no one, well, I say no one, and I shouldn't say that, but again, like the people that are there, apart from the new arrival who has just gotten there, who's not going to win the title for at least a few months, it's like, and Cedric and Leon, it's like everybody else is either part of a tag team or part of a faction or both, or just basically never on TV. So why would anybody really care about them? You know what I mean? How can they really care about them when they're not on TV or when they're never doing anything? I can't care about these guys because I never see them. And I know, hey, well, this is the first match that they've had in months, in weeks. I don't even know how long, whatever else it is. So therefore, and especially like if it's like on TV, unless there's a reason for it, it's like, well, obviously they're losing. They're not winning. So, and then they're just going to go back to being off TV for a few weeks. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, that was an alright match, I guess, or whatever else it was, or that was an okay thing that they did, but so what? Then what? You know what I mean? It's like, then we'll just go back to not seeing them for weeks and months. So it's like, I can't reinvest because, again, I don't see them next week and saying, hey, we lost that big one or whatever else it was, but we've got to get back on the horse or whatever else it is. and that sort of thing. So you've got to see those things of people's frustrations or people being like, hey, we lost that one, but it was close, wasn't it? So we've just got to get out there and get better and get smarter and get stronger and get faster and whatever else it is. Get back on the horse, so to speak, whatever, or whatnot. The more you see somebody, like a feud happening, like again, or whatever, the more it's like, okay, cool. This is kind of going somewhere. But then it's kind of got to move on. You've got to move on from that and go to the next thing. Because again, even if you're saying, well, we're going to come back to Leon, or we're going to come back to Slater Leon, or whatever, or what's his name? I said the wrong name. What's his name? Cedric. Even if we're going to come back to Cedric and Leon wrestling against each other, people need a break from that. You can't just have that again. Because again, you just had it. So again, people need a break from it. You need to go, okay, what can we give Cedric, or who, perhaps, over the next few weeks, over the next few months to work with? Who can we give Leon to work with over the next few weeks, over the next few months? We've got to give them both something else to work with. And then when they've done that, we need to give them something else. And then something else, and so on and so on and so on. And that's the same for everybody and everything. Coming back to a rivalry or feud or whatever is not bad in of itself. It's when you overexpose it or you underexpose it. Because people, again, will want more at a certain point. But again, like, you've got to temper it. And you've got to be like, yeah, but you've just seen that for the last 4 months. So rather than seeing that again right here, right now, and then getting sick of it, we'd rather wait a few more weeks or a few more months, and then we'll come back to it. We'll let it simmer for a little while, and then we'll come back to it. And in the meantime, we'll give them both of those people, or both of those teams, or whatever, something else to work with. Right now, like I said, there's not a whole lot of anything that anybody's working with. And again, maybe that's because, like, I know I don't know why they do this, but they haven't, like, either completely decided or they haven't actually decided what the main event or what some of the matches are exactly going to be. And they're waiting for this next set of tapings to actually go, okay, this is what we're going to do. Dude, you should have figured out over 6 months ago, over 3 months ago, whatever else it was, what you were going to do. Not this week, now we're going to decide what we're going to do. You know what I mean? No, that's nowhere near good enough. Again, that's the same thing that Vince used to do, where he's just like, I'll do it on the night. We'll do it live! And sometimes he made some good decisions here and there, but, like, again, when you, like, doing things on the night and saying, no, this is right for the night, listening to the audience again. Yeah, I would agree. Let's do some more of that here and there at certain times in certain places with certain things. Let's do that. But again, for the most part, we need a plan. Who is facing whom at what big show? Because, like, that's what a lot of this is made around. What's the next big show coming? Who's facing who? And in what match and in what capacity? Again, like, you've got Lockdown coming up, I think the next month, whatever else it is. And it's like, well, all of those matches are going to be in the Ragin' in the Cajun. So what I'm saying here is you've got to come up with different stipulations for all of those different matches that are going to be in that cage. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, it's all, yes, I understand that a lot of matches are just singles matches with props, perhaps, or whatever else it is. And, or tag team matches with props or whatever. But again, if you've got all of the matches happening in the same environment, you need to differentiate those matches as much as possible and differentiate the feuds that are going into those situations the most as what you can. And those feuds need to sit within those sorts of things. So if you're going to have an X Division style match for the title, I mean, yeah, you could do Slater and Leon. I said that you could probably go back, like, you're probably going to have Leon in the Ultimate X match, potentially, at Slammiversary against Cedric. And I would wonder if you're going to flip the title back, but I just highly feel like you wouldn't. But if you're going to have an X Division style match in the cage, then you can have an X-Scape match. They used to have that X-Scape match. Just do it in the cage instead. Like, whoever escapes first gets a title shot. Or it doesn't even have to be for the X Division title. It can just be, a number one contendership X-Scape match or whatever else it is. You could obviously do an X-Scape style match for the X Division title, where it's like the goal is to escape the cage, and the only way to escape the cage is, through the roof, effectively. The doors are shut, blah, 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 all of that. But maybe the heels try to break the lock or to steal the keys or to whatever else it is, that sort of thing, so that they can escape the cage without having to go over the top or whatever else it is. Try to find the more easy way out or whatever else it is. That's an interesting concept, an interesting idea, an interesting way to kind of go about these sorts of things, rather than, it's all about, like, again, obviously, like, you have the ability to tell a serious, direct feud with somebody, but when sometimes it's like, well, we want to keep this thing going, so to speak, and we don't want it to end here. It's like, well, one of the very few ways to kind of keep something moving and to keep it, like, fresh in people's minds and to keep people, like, on the edge of their seat, so to speak, or whatever else it is, to keep coming to watch, is to say, well, we don't want Leon and Cedric to be over. But we don't want, nor do we want to ignore that's something that we could do either. Because again, still people want to see it, but we need to give them a bit of a rest from it just being one-on-one, say. So now let's again say, hey, let's have a multi-man, and that protects both Leon and Cedric, and, like, builds to a, perhaps final rematch or final match of some sort at Bound for Glory, or whatever else it is, whenever it is, or even later, I don't know. But again, that's up to you, and that's fine. But again, you need more than just, I don't know, what you want to say, like, two guys batting for a title. You know what I mean? You've got a few guys there. You've got, even like Ryan Nemeth, I wouldn't say that he's got much chance, but you've got him there. He could be in that division. You've got Casey Navarro there. I mean, I know Trey's injured, but, like, I would still say that he's in that division or in the international title division. Maybe you could bring him back at some point, and hopefully he'll be able to go again soon. But again, you've got to think, like, okay, well, what are we putting in this division? Why are these guys here? And again, maybe it's like time for Leon to to give up on the X Division and say, well, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried to get it back and whatever else it is, but I've been stopped at every turn, and now this is my last chance. If I don't get the X Division title this time, then I'm just gonna have to find a different thing to go for. Maybe I'll go for the world title. Maybe I'll go for a tag team title. Maybe I'll go do this. Maybe I'll go do that. Whatever else it is, So he needs to, maybe eventually you need to come to that space of saying that's what Leon needs to do. Or whatever, whoever. Same thing for anything else and anyone else. Same for the Hardys with the tag team titles. They don't win them at Slammiversery. Then they're probably not going to wrestle. Maybe they will wrestle for them at Lockdown, but I would think that they're wrestling the Righteous at Lockdown because they've just got a bigger feud with the Righteous than with the System. So that would make more sense to me. But then, Bound for Glory's coming or whatever. Maybe, they're leaving or they're retiring or whatever else it is. Or maybe even they get beaten again. So it's again, it feels like, oh man, we just can't get it done. So maybe it's time to move on or to try another venture or something else or whatever else it is. So again, actually that could be a great opportunity for Leon, if the Hardys and Leon are in the same sort of place at the same sort of time, you've already built that relationship that they kind of have throughout however long it's been. And yet now here you go saying, okay, let's have Leon's tag with the Hardys or whatever. Let's have, I don't know, Matt be the manager or the sort of the more out of the ring sort of style of stuff, or maybe only one or two big things or whatever else it is. And let's have Jeff and Leon carry the matches, so that, again, you can have somebody who's athletically able to really get in there and really have, those better matches. And not everyone needs to have a 10-star match or whatever else it is. But again, still, even from a, caring and psychology standpoint or whatever else it is, it's better to have the people that are in there that can be yeah, but this is still better. This guy can still go. And even then again, you could have something there where it's some story there. I don't know whether you should, but it's tough to say, but it's you could certainly have something there where there's that jealousy or there's that I don't know, resentment or whatever else it is there of oh, Leon, I wish I could still go or whatever. But or I feel like you're taking my spot. You're not really Jeff's brother or whatever. You start having that sort of thing where it's the opposite of the Nemeth storyline sort of thing with Casey Navarro. And I kind of feel like that Casey Navarro Nemeth story is still going somewhere, but where is also the question. I keep saying they need to get rid of that friggin' call your shot, because it's it's only a couple more months till Bound for Glory as well, which is the time at which, hey, that thing has got to be used by effectively. So it's yeah, we is he going to look like the biggest dingus just for losing a match against somebody? I mean, to an extent, yeah, sure, but is he going to look like a bigger dingus by not using his opportunity in the time frame given? Yeah, that's gonna be even worse, I would say. So, yeah, and even if he has to use it on a tag team title shot, which I don't 100% agree with, or whatever else it is, or whatnot, I would still say that could be worth doing if that's what you want to do. I don't really care if that's what you're gonna do. But again, let's just decide that is what you're gonna do. Now let's do it. I don't know. That's maybe your problem. I don't know. Maybe you have already decided that, but it hasn't been, made clear. And he's been and again, maybe you'll show that eventually, but that's what we want to see. And maybe again, I said, I felt before, it's here's Ryan Nemeth. He's going to turn on his brother, and all of this other stuff. So would that prompt, like Ryan Nemeth to win a title and Nick Nemeth to like cash in on him to win the title, or to win the title out from under Ryan Nemeth, sort of thing? Like if he's in the Ultimate X match, or in like a match like that, or something like that, or some sort of multi-man match of some sort for a title, and it's like, it looks like Ryan Nemeth's going to win, but you hear the zipper, come undone, and oh my God, and Nick Nemeth comes out and cashes in and steals the title away from Ryan Nemeth or whatever else it is. I don't know, but again, it's like, well, where would you do that? Why would you do that? Because again, you've got so much other stuff going on, and maybe like the tag team division, but then he's got to have a tag team partner. You could do like that whole like Sting thing or whatever else it was, where like somebody's won the belt but they haven't really got a tag team partner type thing, and it's kind of obvious like who his tag team partner would be in this sense, but you still might have that question of like, is he really going to choose this person, or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I still feel like that's the direction there. But honestly, like the same thing, like I was saying for Bayley, like a few minutes ago, like whatever. If she was to come in, what would she do? Who would she wrestle? Who would she like have something to work with? Like even if she was coming in, like at least like I remember Jordynne Grace, and I think as well Jordynne Grace actually and Masha Slamovich were both going to apparently face somebody, like I think it was both times it was Natty, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. All that matters in the end to me, again, is that, again, no matter how much fans wanted that, it didn't happen. No matter, and that's again where I'm like here with Bayley. No matter how much the fans want it, to me it's not going to happen. No matter what, it's not going to happen for the most part. To me, it's not going to happen. Yeah, like, and no matter how much Bayley wants it to happen, it's not going to happen, because again, like WWE does not care. They're just in the business of hoarding people so that AEW or TNA doesn't have them. Same with AEW. They're just in the business of hoarding people so that WWE doesn't have them, or that TNA doesn't have them. That's what they're in the business of. They're just in the business of signing people to contracts and not really caring. And the only reason like they released a whole bunch of, like WWE released a whole bunch of people, and even AEW released a few people here and there, was because like people were like, yeah, the money's great or whatever, but I can't just keep being the one just sitting here enjoying nice catering. I need more than that, So, but yeah, no. Like again, I just think the build thus far has been really bad. So perhaps like that's me saying there's been really nothing announced yet is a little bit harsh in saying that, because like I said before, there are things that you can kind of see that they're kind of building towards, or whatever else it is, but then it's just like, it feels like there's nothing else. It doesn't feel like there's enough here. There's not enough meat on the bones here. There's not enough that would make people go, holy heck, I've got to buy a ticket. I've got to see Santana versus X. Or I've got to see Laying Lee versus Y. Or I've got to see maybe like the Knockouts tag team titles will actually be somewhat of an attraction. People might actually be like, I've got to see Demon Bunny beat the Elegance brand. So that's one thing. That's the first thing, and that's one of the titles and one of the divisions that has meant the least in the last like 5-6 years. So which is good in some ways, that people are actually like, hey, this is what we want to see, and you're like actually being like, oh, okay, let's build to that. Let's do something with it. Cool, great. But then I don't know what else you're going to do, but still, for the X division, it is a little bit cloudy because, again, like, you would be saying, well, you're not really building to something with somebody per se so much. This is more a delay in whatever you're already kind of seeing. So, but you're also trying to transplant, well, not transplant, I guess, but you're also trying to implement these new wrestlers that you've got. To say, hey, we've just got you. We want people to take you seriously. We want to give you an opportunity. Let's go. Let's see it. Let's put you out there. Let's give you this match with Eddie Edwards. Let's give you this match here. Let's whatever. Let's give you a promo here. Let's do this there. Like, so that people realize, yeah, you're gonna be here and you're gonna be important. You're gonna be doing something, even if it's not gonna maybe pay off for a little while or whatever else it is or whatnot, whatever, who knows. But we'll get you in a program, we'll get you doing something, we'll get you working on something or whatever else it is, and then we'll see where we're at or whatever else it is, and then hopefully it'll be cool. But again, I don't know, beyond that, then it's like the men's tag team titles. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do there? Because beyond the Hardys, like, there's no one, babyface at least, that you've really built up. And maybe, like, you can go with Nemeth and KC. But that's not, and maybe they could even win them, but I don't really see that happening. But then again, it's like, well, I don't know what else you're going to do. There's just like nothing else there in that regard. So, and especially nothing that feels Slammiversary worthy. This is meant to be one of the biggest shows of the year, and you haven't got really anything there for that, unless it's like a triple threat or something like that. I don't know, but obviously you could do that. But still, that feels like, again, another sort of delay, sort of kind of thing. We're not really seeing anything really here. It's just a match for the match's sake to move to the next thing, sort of thing. And yeah, the main event scene right now, it feels very much the same. It feels like we haven't got any really great plans, and whatever is going to be there is just a placeholder thing so that we can move on to the next thing, which we haven't really built up yet, which we should already be building up. Like, that's what I said with Macklin. Like, Macklin shouldn't have come back, or maybe he should have come back, but he shouldn't have had his match. He should have, been stalking Santana and hunting him down and this and that, and then finally Dario and Santino say, you're going to get a rematch with Mike Santana, and it's going to be at Lockdown in the cage, and all of this. That's what they should have done. Because that would have built it up, built up the drama, built up the feud, and had have kept it going. But no, even if you had done that, like, just before, or whatever, it would have been like, be afraid, be very afraid, like, this is coming, this is what's going to happen, then you've got to have Macklin come back and have matches and win and win and win and win, and look like a freaking beast, so that it looks like when Santana's going to fight him at Lockdown, that it's going to be like this war, this massive thing between the two of them. No, it's just a match on TV, and a great main event match and all of that. But still, it's like we were gonna skip over this a couple of months ago, and it didn't quite happen. Now we're gonna skip over it here. Instead of skipping over it, let's build something, because you've got nothing else going on. So why waste a week of TV on this thing and just throw it away? Then actually be like, okay, let's slow down. Let's find a way to make this thing happen between these two. Even like if that match had have ended in a DQ, or had have ended in a countout, or had have ended in some sort of no contest. I know people might have been a little bit pissed and a little bit miffed about that, but at least if you said, okay, well, Macklin and Santana cannot be contained, blah, 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 yada, yada, and all of this other stuff. So now they're gonna face each other in the steel cage. Yeah, da, 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 da. You know, there you go. That's your build to lockdown. You know, they couldn't be contained. Macklin kept attacking him before the bell or this and that or whatever else it is. And Santana and this and that. They both wanted to rip each other's heads off. No, it's just they're gonna wrestle. Okay, cool, great. Now it's over. And it meant basically nothing. And we wasted all that time caring about seeing this rematch to just get nothing out of it. Like I said, that's why I was pissed before, because I was like, dude, this is going to be nothing. It's going to be a good match, but that's it. You know? So, again, like, unless they had have been like, oh, okay, let's do something else and let's build it to another time or another point, or even like Slammiversery. Again, could have done that. Didn't? Why not? You know? Oh, we don't care. That's your fucking problem right there. And that's the fucking problem. We need to be selling tickets to these shows. If you just don't care, or if you don't think that that's worthy of Slammiversery, well, what the fuck are you putting there? Because you haven't got anything else brewing. So you might as well let that cook. You know, and freaking run with it, because that's the hottest thing that you had going for a while. So why not let it cook? Why not let people go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. You know, Macklin, Santana, again, maybe they'll rip each other's heads off. Maybe this will happen. Maybe there'll be blood. Maybe there'll be this. You know, build that anticipation between the two. Like, these two are caged dogs, willing to rip each other apart effectively, you know, in a sense. You know, now you've just got, who knows, stuff, things, matches, stuff no one cares about, stuff that doesn't have a story, you know, stuff that doesn't have a build, people that don't have, you know, actual real wins that actually mean anything. What does this all mean? It's stuff that happened. What? That's why no one's interested. Because it's like, well, what have you got? You've got a whole lot of nothing. So without that story, without that build-up, without that reason for people to, again, tune in and care, why would they tune in and care? And that's going to be your asses, you know? It has to be at some point, because the wrestlers are doing everything that they can do with the material that you're giving them. If you're not giving them good enough material to work with, then that's on you. It's not if they can deliver it in the ring or deliver it on the mic or deliver it whatever. It's whether you can plot that out week by week, month by month, year by year, whatever else it is. That's how you draw people in. You've got to draw people in, and you've got to have things for them to be excited about, not just the wrestlers, but the feuds and the things that are going on. So again, I've said this before, where it's like, we have stiff competition right now. This is not the time to not even just like that, the time to be lazing back. It's never the time to be lazing back. But especially when one of your biggest shows, and it's almost always like that now, because now you've whittled it down to being like, no, we're just going to put on the biggest and best and baddest shows that we can. Lockdown, Bound for Glory, you know, Slammiversery, Genesis, the big shows, Rebellion, whatever else it is, the big shows. That's it. And then our weekly TV. That's it. But like beyond that, again, you haven't done anything for this show. You need to do things for this show. And like just saying somebody from WWE is going to swoop in and save the day or whatever and draw the house, we hope, that's not going to solve your problem. Because people will see that, oh cool, you've got Bailey here. Wow, whoop-de-doo. You know, what else have you got? You know what I mean? So again, let's see it. And I hope that's this week. For God's sakes. Announce what's happening at this show in advance and then say, okay, well, now things have changed. Because before they had, I think, Trek Williams versus Joe Hendry. Then it was like, oh, Mike Santana's gonna be in the match at that was at Slammiversary. At Slammiversary. Right? Okay, cool. So now we're gonna see a triple threat. You know, people were feeling like, oh, Santana should be in this match, and we want Santana in this match. You know, and then they did it. They were like, okay, let's have him in this match. Let's build to him winning the title. Okay. But people felt like he was just going to win the title. So, I don't know whether it should have just been that Santana came out at a certain point after the match and stared Trick Williams down or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Still. Anyway, guys, yeah, you guys get the idea. But I am just saying, you know, perhaps it's a bit harsh to say that there's nothing, but it's just, you can see that there's not enough. There's not enough for one of these big shows. Same for Bound for Glory. Even looking ahead, what would you do there? What would you do then? You've not got a lot, like, loaded up. You haven't got anyone big time loaded up, getting all these wins, doing all this stuff, you know, feeling like they're going to be the next person. You've just got people there and they just exist. Why would anybody be interested in that? You know, everyone's got to feel like, I'm going to be the next person. I'm going to go somewhere. I'm beating everybody, you know, whatever else it is. And I'm getting closer and closer. Not just, I exist, and I'm here, and I'm entertaining, but yeah, I'm not the person at the top, so you might as well ignore me, because I'm not the person at the top. So, but yeah. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you will join me again in another one.